welcome to another episode of the Blue Collar Wealth Club podcast. I am your host, Jerry Garcia.
And I'm your other host, Sheena White. And today we're going to talk about everybody's favorite thing that ever happens in their business, and that is employee turnover.
Just an inevitability of owning a business. So
Yes.
might as well face the truth and understand that it's going to happen. And we can talk about how you navigate those waters and make it as easy as possible.
Honestly, sometimes you're going to have people quit, and sometimes it's going to suck and it's going to be key employees. But other times you're going to need to fire people.
Right.
Sometimes they don't work out, and sometimes it can even be employees that once were really great. You as a business get to another level, or something happens in their life and they start being terrible. There's a million different reasons why sometimes a person is just not the right fit for your organization anymore.
Sure. I mean, that could be any number of reasons, right? It could be that their work is starting to fall off. Maybe they have some personal issues. There are ways to approach things where you want to have those conversations, and obviously not okay. As long as they're not doing anything wrong, maybe that's where you start, right? You start with a conversation. Hey, what's going on? I noticed that your work is slacking lately, or something seems off. Tell me what's happening. Is it something that you can work through? Or are they going behind your back and trying to steal your clients to start their own business?
Oh, I've heard about this happening. Well, and that's why you have to have the correct legal protections. New FTC ruling said that non-competes are no longer able to be enforced for pretty much every single human unless someone is an actual officer of your corporation. So if they're like a C-suite or above, because then they have specific, information that the general population or even your general employees don't have. So that's still executives within your firm can still have a non-compete. But other than that, pretty much no one can. I know a lot of companies have tried to use those as threats, like, oh, don't go work for my competitor because you can't. But now, sorry, everybody, that is not going to work. But you can still have non-solicitation agreements, which means that somebody goes and they start working for your competitor. They can't solicit your employees. They can't solicit your clients. They can't solicit anybody involved in your organization.
Right, and I think that the non-compete part is fair, right? I mean, if you have a skill, something you're good at, and it's just not working out with one company, who should be able to say that you can't take that same skill and use it at another company?
Oh, no, 100. I did not agree with non-competes at all. I thought they were stupid. But
I mean, here in Colorado, they've been pretty much unenforceable for as long as they've existed. And
yeah,
we've always known behind the scenes that you could always go work for somebody else. And frankly, the employers knew as well. They knew that there's really nothing they could do to try to enforce it. They put it there so that you weren't trying to take their clients and take them to another.
Yes, because non-solicitation agreements are totally enforceable. So if you're making sure you have your employees sign those, you don't really have to be that afraid of someone taking your clients. That being said, I do have a client right now who is enforcing a non-solicitation, and it's a big pain in the patooski.
Usually it is.
It's costing almost more than it's worth, but it's almost to say hey, we're serious about this for others, because most industries are actually a pretty small community when you really get down to it.
If you let one person get away with it, then there's really nothing stopping a new person from coming in and continuing to do that to you over and over. The non-compete and the non-solicitation, they're very different and very different for very, very good reasons.
Yeah, so making sure that you are, you're really thinking about your employees and treating them well so that they want to stay with you, right? I mean, if you have great staff, let them know you think they're great. I've worked for companies before that I was hitting all my numbers and I was doing all the things, and all I wanted was a good job. Good job, Sheena. And they were always like, you didn't do this right. You didn't do that right. And it was really demoralizing. So really thinking about how do we bring people up. And one of the techniques I actually learn and I teach my clients is to use the word and instead of the word but. Because psychologically, when you tell someone something great and then you say but, they actually they forget every single thing you said.
They disregard everything before the but.
Yeah, and all they hear is after the but. But if you say and, they'll actually pull them together. So if you say, oh my gosh, you did great, and this, and we really need to work on this over here, they will actually hear the whole thing and respond to the entire sentence instead of just the after the but bad part.
I've been responsible for this on the wrong side as a manager. And I didn't even realize it at the time. I worked in this was in my mortgage career, managing a team. We were a preferred lender for a large builder, so we were constantly under high stress. The builder put a lot of stress on us. Have to hit deadlines, have to get loans closed. Can't be any sort of errors. Was managing this team, and we were pushing a ton of loans through with just 5 or 6 of us at any given time. And we were talking about pushing 75 to 120 loans out a month, which is very high volume. At one point or time or another, one of the employees, one of my loan officers working underneath me, mentioned that. He's like, "Hey man, like kicked butt this month, and you didn't even say thank you." And I had to go back and really revisit it, and it's something that I've taken with me moving forward, because it was not that they weren't doing a good job. I was getting the stress from above, and so I was putting that on them, but never took the time to acknowledge that they were really kicking ass overall, and I was thankful for that. But I had to take a step back and really reevaluate how I approach that with employees moving forward, and making sure, like you said, that they know when they're doing a good job, and not only hear the things that they need to do better. Very personally relate to that story from the wrong side.
Yeah, but I mean, you learned, right? And you had an employee who nicely was brave enough to tell you, like, give us a little credit. We kicked some ass.
Right.
Because a lot of times you won't. So just really think about that in your managerial style. Like, how are we really helping our employees to get better and to rise to the next level with us, not just so focused on what they might be doing wrong? Because it's easy to see the wrong. It's a lot harder to give the accolades.
Well, and then talking about employee turnover, right? We talk a lot about how you overcome that, and when you need to fire people quickly, and how do we bring people together? How do we make the culture in our business such that people don't want to leave, and if they have an issue, they can bring it to our attention, or if they have an idea that they think will make the company run more efficiently, that they are comfortable approaching us with it. If they want more of a higher role within the company, that they feel comfortable asking for that. And you as a manager being open to that, you as an operator of this business being open to hearing suggestions, being open to bringing somebody to a higher level, giving them more responsibility because they feel so strongly about your business and wanting. There's a lot of good things that you can do to reduce the amount of turnover that you have, and really make sure that they are helping you bring in the right.
Yeah, like what I was going through was scaling up certification. There was a case study of a company called Apple Tree, which is a telemarketing company, right? They're dialers, and they had crazy pants turnover, like something like 300% turnover every year. That's a lot. I mean, that means you're hiring constantly, because it's literally in and out, in and out, in and out. One of the things they did first is they just changed the people's chairs and gave them chairs that were actually comfortable. Now, this seems like a kind of thing, but for real, like, the people were sitting in chairs that weren't comfortable, so they didn't want to sit there. So they were like, this job sucks. I don't want to be here. They're already doing something that is not so fun in telemarketing. Not so fun, right? So if you at least give them a nice chair, give them a great spot to sit, so at least it's comfortable while they're doing this work, like, make their tools good, right? Thinking about construction, like, are you giving your guys tools that are good, that work for them, or are you making them edge grinding? We had these little cart thingies that you could lay on, crunched position, but it was a lot more comfortable than being on your knees on the ground. So it's like, okay, can you just make that change? Instead of your guys being on their knees on the ground, can you get them a fun little cart thingy that looks funny but is way more comfortable? How do we just make their job easier, make them want to come to work and make it better? And then another thing that they did, which I thought was super cool, is they asked all their employees what their dreams were. What were they striving for? And they actually banded together as a company and as a team to try and make each other's dreams come true. And so they had this whole program where they were helping each other, succeed and get the things they wanted outside of work. It's really, what were their personal goals that we could help with as a company, and could really and it really helps with their teamwork. And then they reduced their turnover significantly, and they actually had the lowest turnover of any company in their industry because of chairs and actually caring about people as people.
We've talked about this with one of your clients in the past. Maybe adding such a simple thing as an onboarding process, right? So you learn a little bit about the person you're talking to, the person you'll be working with. This particular client, I think, was getting very nice gifts for their employees when they hit bonuses or for their birthdays or something along those lines, and felt very good about providing these wonderful gifts. but the employees weren't receiving them that well because it wasn't anything that they value. You take a little onboarding, whether your hobbies, maybe you spend a lot less money on the gift, but you get something that's a lot more meaningful to the employee, and that changes their whole dynamic of how they feel about the person they work for, because they're getting them these very thoughtful gifts that relate to something that they enjoy, to something that they like, rather than something that just costs a bunch of money.
Yeah, well, definitely. I mean, because people just want to feel valued, right? I mean, you want to feel valued, and so do your employees. They want to feel like they're doing a good job and that they're valued in their company. Because in reality, people don't quit jobs, they quit people. Working for you and your company, where are they going? They're going somewhere else to do the same job. Like, that's what they
Most
do,
times, yes.
right? Like, so they didn't quit their job. They're doing the same job tomorrow. They're just not doing it for you. So they quit you. So you have to think about that. Like, okay, why are these people quitting me? And maybe it's just a culture fit. Sometimes when people go, it's like, goodbye, sayonara, thank you very much for saving us the unemployment. Sometimes it's like, oof, and you got to take a step back and really think about it and how create that environment that is a team and someplace people want to be.
Yeah, in that employee's mind, like you said, the majority of the time they're doing the same job.
Yeah.
They're going from one company to the next to do the same job, whether it's sales, whether it's a specific, task that they do with concrete or whatever the case is. They're not going to quit doing that because that's what they're good at. That's what they know. So they're going to keep doing it. They just want to do it for somebody who appreciates them.
Yeah.
Someplace they feel valued. There's a lot of easy ways when you take a step back and actually take the time to listen and learn about your employees. Be it from their perspective, right? We, as owners, will always see things from our perspective, from the bottom line, from the business's line. They are people with families and entire lives outside of the time they spend doing work for your company. So taking the time to really get to know some things about them and who they are and what they value, hugely valuable for you and your business in reducing that turnover.
Yeah, and maybe seeing where they want to go and what their goals are. How do you align their goals with the company's goals? Because once you get those two things aligned, then you will have an employee who will, for life, who's going to do everything, who's going to be super loyal and really want to help you achieve your goals because that will help them achieve theirs. It's like, what's in it for them? Why should they keep showing up for you? And really thinking about that and making it, because they have a lot of choices. I know right now labor market is a little crazy and they don't have as many choices, but don't take that for granted because that changes.
Yeah.
And just see how do we use this as an opportunity to build the most amazing team of people who want to be here and treating them really great.
Sure. Employees will come and go over time, but it's the ones that hurt that will make you rethink everything that you're doing and how you're doing it.
Yeah.
The more you can do to be proactive, because it really is about, should, as an owner, care about the people who work for you.
Hopefully.
And I think we've talked about it already. Being empathetic, understanding that there's a whole other person on the other side of this service that's provided for your company. Better off your company will be as a whole.
Yeah. And then maybe if you think about it ahead of time, then it doesn't have to hurt so bad because you can just keep those people. Because a lot of times you don't even have to increase their wages. It's about the other things, about the non-monetary things that really matter. And so just really thinking about in your business, like, how do I make my employees' lives better in a way that also makes my business better?
Well, I think that about covers what we wanted to cover.
Well, thanks so much for joining us, and we can't wait to see you next time on the Blue Collar Wealth Club.